I am a blind man living in what I assume to be a mansion. There is something eerie inside that was able to manipulate the boundaries of my home. I take cautious steps in the silent hallways of my enormous-looking home, following only the comfortable knowledge of my surroundings. I am a 60-year-old guy, and although I have lost my vision, my body remains strong and functional. My palms scrape against the cold walls of what appears to be a grand residence, some kind of mansion. I cannot perceive all that is luxurious around me, thus I am unaware of its genuine nature. My family is gradually becoming less of a source of warmth and companionship. There is an eerie silence in place of the children's laughing and the comforting presence of relatives. My sister Diane was last person to show up, but she swore a promise to come back and tell the life experiences. However, as time passed, her words resonated in my mind. I wandered about the large corridors for 6 days without any problems. The ordinary routine took on a terrifying ambiguity on the 7th day. During my walk down the corridor, my senses grew heightened. A feeling of dread went down my spine as the atmosphere grew heavy with an apparent danger. Something ominous and maliciously seemed to be lurking behind me, clinging to the darkness. The hallway seemed like it was becoming longer and longer with each step, like it went on forever. As I accelerated, the sound of my step echoed off the invisible walls, causing panic to nibble at the outermost regions of my mind. The chilling breath of the ominous entity trembled through the room as it drew closer. I became desperate and started running as my heart was racing from fear. A sinister murmur rang out in the corridor, one that I was unable to make sense of. I ran, breathing heavily, driven only by the need to get away from some unseen terror. My breath became toiled. A wave of exhaustion attempted to pull me down into the abyss. I stumbled onward as my strength diminished, and to my disbelief, the hallway unexpectedly ended. My heart was still pounding as I stood at the doorway, struggling to breathe. During that brief break, I came to understand the reality. I was not in just any house. I had been imprisoned in a maze-like mansion that existed outside the limits of my understanding. There was an unsettling silence after the ominous presence had disappeared. Now, as I sit by myself in the quiet aftermath, I can't help but write about this strange experience. My skepticism and the paranormal are still there, but the unexplainable events that took place inside these walls are beyond reason. The mansion, my once confined reality, swayed with shadows and echoes to show who it really was. My footfall echoes ache in the corners of my mind, a menacing reminder of an excursion into the unknown and the dark. A distinct sense of fear enveloped the air like a damp blanket as the next day emerged. I began to feel strangely uneasy as I surveyed my mansion. Once silent, familiar sounds crept through the hallways and echoed in the immense nothingness of my surrounds. I strained to hear where the voices originated from, but they were still deceptive and misleading me. A suspicion that someone had broken into my space began devouring at the boundaries of my awareness. With every hushed exchange, my heart raced, and I could feel the oppressive weight of unseen eyes on me. I became overcome with paranoia and decided to face the invader. I wandered around rooms all day, getting more and more frustrated as I tried in vain to find the mysterious presence. The mansion, which I had recognized, unexpectedly began to bend and sway concerning me. My hands stroked the empty air, my senses heightening as I searched feverishly for the invisible trespasser. A persistent sense of futility crept in as the day went on. That mysterious being was still just out of reach, an entity doing a horrific waltz within my claimed home. Feeling lost, I embraced the uncertainty and took its burden with me. The oppressive air reappeared in the stillness of the evening as I walked along the hallway that had grown to become my weird experience's center of gravity. The corridor that was once my normal route appeared large in front of me. A sense of panic set in, but this time I fought the need to flee. I stopped, feeling very much disconnected from the walls that had directed me earlier. I discovered something hanging in the corridor, which had disappeared from the physical world. I felt everything around me dissolved into nothingness, and there was an eerie silence in the air. I froze, not sure what to do. Anxiety is taking hold of me. I ran in an unknown direction, driving myself forward with a sudden bravery. The infinite horizon opened up in front of me like a limitless, ethereal plain. I was running, and every stride was driven by panic as I felt like there was no end in sight. My body hit the walls of my home, a sudden obstacle, without warning. I fell onto the ground, disoriented and out of breath. I felt a wave of relief as I stumbled to my feet. I was in my bedroom, where I was certain I felt safe and that the walls would keep me anchored in reality. After all of this crazy experience, I sat at my desk and wrote about yet another strange day. My perception had been stretched to its breaking point by the endless hallway, so now I had to contend with the phantom appearance of my surroundings and the elusive guest. I tried to clarify the inexplicable with every word I wrote, a blind man navigating the shadows that hid beyond what was apparent. It was already a week following the eerie incident in the endless hallway, and the eerie vibe in my home lingered. The voices stayed, whispers like phantom threads twisting throughout the air. The weight of invisible eyes tracking me around made me feel more vulnerable, since I knew that my personal space had been violated. My strange urge to comprehend and my curiosity drove me to look into it more. I was standing at the base of a stairway that led into the unknown on this fateful day. A new challenge was facing me, so I ascended with some dread. Beneath my feet, the steps appeared to go on forever, a stairway that defied the boundaries of my reality as I knew it. As I went up, a weariness that went beyond mere fatigue settled into my bones. I started to feel terrified all over again, of the steps, of an unending climb with no way out. Once more, the eerie noise of its threatening footsteps rang up the stairway behind me. Fear evolved became my energy, keeping me going on even when fatigue was about to overwhelm me. I was in an unfamiliar air for 2 hours. The stairwell turned into a place that was haunted. Malicious whispers resounded throughout the atmosphere, and I felt sinister hands sought out to touch my skin. Tormenting and mocking my delicate psyche, a disembodied voice spoke in a language I did not understand, deep and terrifying. Though it took a toll on my body, a fresh fear motivated me. Quick footsteps came from behind, getting louder with every painful stride. Fear took control of me, and I struggled to get away on all fours while scraping my way upward, wanting to get away from the unseen aggressor. At last, at the height of my endurance, I arrived at the top of the endless stairway. But instead of relief, I was overcome with terrible paranoia. Unnatural energy seemed to be charged into the air, and I could feel it pulsing concerning me. I stumbled into the bathroom, which was the closest room, out of fear, and shut the door behind me. I reached for my journal and started writing down all the horrible things I had experienced with hands that were shaking. The never-ending flight of stairs, the demonic murmurs, and the unrelenting chase were all documented in my written statement. The bathroom turned to become a haven, a flimsy fortress against the uncertainty that waited outside. The ghostly whispers of the mansion's occupants mixed with the echo of my own breathing as I cowered in the gloomy room. In the face of unfathomable darkness, the journal, which was now a chronicle of my journey into a place beyond sight, became my comfort. As a blind man trapped in a mansion that defied the distinction between the living and mortals, I eagerly anticipated the next chapter of my tormented existence within the walls of that sealed room.